Hey guys, how are you? Hope everything is well, and welcome to my review of the Moondrop shoe, or chew. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, it's Moondrop's latest offering, and what an offering it is. Um, it's an IM, as I mentioned in my pre-review, or or whatever you want to call it, that little small video that I did recently. It's an IM that is really a no-brainer, and for what it costs, it kind of follows the same path of the CCA CRA. It is so cheap and so good that it's not a question of should I buy it, shouldn't I buy it, just get it, period. Okay. Anyway, it comes in a very simple box, nothing really special. Well, at this price point, you can't really expect a lot. The IMs themselves come inside over there, okay. Underneath, oops, it brings this carrying pouch, which, look, honestly, if I put the IMs inside here, they're going to get crushed. So I guess it was a nice attempt to make something classy. They just could have given it a little bit more material so that it, or I don't know, some alternative solution for it to have a little bit more space. But I guess the effort counts. And it brings inside there the infamous spring tips, which basically are, well, let's say you're buying some spring tips and you're getting a pair of earphones for $7 basically, because roughly the cost of the CHU is $20, and if you buy the spring tips separately, they cost around $13-14. So if it makes more sense to buy actually the earphones, and you get an ear you get the tips and the earphones all in one. Anyway, on to what they look like and what they are all about. It's a metal shell, really small earphones. They fit, at least in my case, perfectly. I have absolutely no complaints. I initially used the medium-sized spring tips that came along with it, but I then actually exchanged them for these ones, which I prefer. And the reason why I prefer these ones is, to be honest, I like the sound of the spring tips. I just didn't like the feel of the spring tips in my ears. That stickiness that it has is just a little bit disconcerting. So I took them out and put on these tips, which work as well, if not even maybe better. I saw some slight improvement in terms of the way the upper frequencies were treated with these tips as compared to the spring tips. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's got excellent build, really small form factor. I mean, they look really nice. It's got a touch of aria to it, let's put it that way, although the actual shape is different. The only, well, let's say, I'm not going to call it a negative point. I mean, I guess they could have done a detachable cable if they wanted to. They just decided not to, and rather spend money in other things. Is the fact that the cable is fixed, and that wouldn't be in itself all that bad, because the cable is actually of a good thickness and so on and so forth. It's just the quality of the cable. It just it just tangles up very easily, and is not exactly very user friendly. I mean, it just has a life of its own. And look at this. I just wound it up nicely, and I'm now trying to unwind it, and look at the mess that it is. So the cable is not one of the good things about these earphones, definitely. Okay. And yeah, basically in terms of the build and the packaging that it comes with, and accessories and so on, that basically, I think this basically covers it. It's decently built, got a nice weight to it. It's, you put them in your ears, they kind of melt into your ears very nicely. They really fit well. Obviously you got that cold feeling of metal, that's normal. It's just really the cable that is an issue, and then to top it off, it winds in the opposite way than what it usually winds when you install when you actually introduce the IEMs into your ears. It brings these rubber ear hooks, which honestly I'm not a big fan of, so I'm not even going to bother with them. And the only thing that they could have done maybe to have helped keep the IEMs more fixed would have been to have included a little chin adapter, to on the cable to actually, so you could adjust it and kind of just keep everything in its place a little bit better. But anyway, that is what it is, and that's that. On to what we all want to know is, what is the sound like? What do these babies sound like? Well, this is an answer that's going to have two parts. On the one hand, Moondrop has fallen into this trend of repeating itself, and it's good on the one hand, because you know that whatever is going to come out next, you're definitely going to like it, and on top of it, they've actually been able to, you take the KXXS, you take the Starfield, you take the Aria, you take the Kato, they all have the basic same signature. That's it. I'll show you now in a second. They all have the basic VDSF, VDSF, exactly. They all have the same kind of basic signature, which is this various takes on, let's say, neutral bright signature. Okay, some of them will be then slightly warmer on the bass as compared to others, but it's always basically the same sound signature. It sounds good. You either like it or you don't like it. Well, the majority, I think, will like it, because it's a more mature sound signature. It's a sound signature which is not the typical V shape of the cheaper IEMs, let's put it that way, although you have some expensive IEMs which also have a big signature, so I guess. But anyway, I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. And definitely the CHU is, well, one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest way of actually getting yourself a mature tuned, a mature tuning in an IEM, without having to go and spend a fortune. Because the cheapest that you probably have after this, in terms of having the similar sound or similar signature, is probably the Aria, and that's $70 odd, so it's 3 times the price. So it is right and it is correct, and I will say yes, it is correct to say that, and I actually mentioned it myself when I was doing that little presentation video, that you listen to the CHU, and if you are a Moondrop fan like I am, you immediately recognize the sound. You immediately know, okay, wow, this sounds like an Aria. Wow, this sounds like a Kato. Wow, this sounds like a Blessing 2 even. Okay, and it does. Obviously, when you then start listening more carefully, you then start picking up on the various points where it is deficient as compared to those IEMs. But overall, and I think for the majority of people which have untrained ears, you put this on, and you put on an Aria, and you put on a Kato, and maybe even a Blessing 2, and I think most people which are not trained, or not more aficionado like some of us are, they will really not notice big differences, especially if you have it just connected to a phone or something like that. That's basically a way of introducing the sound and what the CHU is about. So it is a very well tuned IEM. At the price, it has absolutely no competition. At below $50, you will be pushing it really hard to find something that can outright beat it. And up to even $100, it can give a lot of IEMs. And actually, I'll even go as far as saying up to $150, it will give a lot of IEMs a very hard time. Very hard time. I've heard IEMs costing 6-7 times this, which are are a shame, or an absolute insult to what a good IEM should sound like. And well, the truth is that they don't really have much success. So I'm not exaggerating when I say this. So as I was saying, it's kind of a bright, neutral, analytical kind of sound. I've heard some reviewers mention that it's sub-bass focused and so on and so forth. Well, I can only talk and say what I see as my one compared to the other IEMs that I have here. And no, I didn't find it sub-bass focused. It has definitely got more sub-bass than mid-bass. I would agree with that, but it's not sub-bass focused. It doesn't have tons of rumble. But the bass that there is of very good quality, more than sufficient to satisfy the majority of music genres, unless you are a hardcore bass head. And really, like I said, really, maybe just the leanness of the mid bass would be a point of mention. The transition into the actually, you know what? Let me put the graph so you can actually see what I'm talking about. There we go. That's the graph of the CHU. So as I was saying, some other reviewers mentioned that there was a sub-bass focused. I don't consider this a sub-bass focused, or it's pretty lean. I mean, it's not really neutral. It's a nice. I mean, from 100 hertz onwards, from 100 hertz to basically 1 kilohertz, it's as neutral as can be. I mean, honestly. It would be nice if we had a little bit more energy over there, just a little bit more, to just give it a little bit more impact. But look, it's good. It's really good. It plays really well. EDM and stuff like that will be more than made justice to. This is not like an Ola where it will be very much genre selective, where you play some EDM on a Ola and you will be disappointed because it lacks a lot of info. I mean, I'll just put a graph here quickly of the Ola for you to see what I mean. I mean, that's the graph of the Ola. Below 100 hertz, there's no comparison possible. So the CHU as compared to the Ola, just miles ahead of it. You could say, okay, fine, but then the Ola is also more detailed and so on and so forth. No, I disagree with that one as well. The Ola is perhaps not as splashy on the high end. I agree with that. But the mids of the CHU are, in my opinion, superior. The overall tonal balance, the tonality, the timbre, everything of the CHU, for me, are way superior to the Ola. And the Ola costs $40. It's twice the price. Having said that, once you have maybe decided to, okay, I've got an Ola, I've spent the money, let me see what I can do to make it sound better. If you modify the Ola, so let me take away the standard Ola and show you a modified Ola. If you now modify the Ola like I did, that's a completely different story. Yes, fair enough, we have given it all this energy here in the mid bass, which, funny enough, it doesn't translate in hearing to what you actually see in terms of graph. So graphically you would say, oh, okay, you've spoiled everything up top, you've made it less technical, less clean, so on and so forth. No, it's not the case. It's actually maintained all of its cleanliness, and if you actually look, it even made it better, more neutral, I mean, the modified Ola, it's basically just a question of adding a 200 grade filter to the front vent. In my opinion, in my modest opinion, is a far superior IEM than the standard Ola, and one that, yes, then can compete with the CHU more favorably. But the CHU has one excellent point going for it. Its price, $20. So even modified, that doesn't outdo the fact that there's this huge price gap, which just makes the CHU a much wiser choice. Fair enough, the Ola does have a detachable cable and so on and so forth, but still, honestly, overall, I would still take the CHU over the Ola. That's my opinion. Well, basically, I've started the comparisons, so I might as well just carry on. As for, let's say, for example, now the Tanya, which is another one which would make sense to compare it with. And let me just get the Tanya here now. 1 second, please. There we go. Again, you look at the Tanya, and you definitely see way more mid-bass energy, which is it is engaging, and it will benefit certain music. The Tanya is not, well, the Tanya is you could say a V-ish type signature, not a dramatic V signature, but it's a V-ish type signature. It's got a nice mid bass to it, not as much ultimate sub bass, but again, like, the differences are basically non-existent. The mids, I actually found the mids very comparable, to be honest, where then you do lose out on the Tanya as compared to the CHU is on the upper frequencies. And the upper frequencies there, you can definitely see that the CHU has got an advantage. There's more clarity, there's more detailed retrieval, there's more, look, it basically comes down to, you prefer a more bright neutral signature of the CHU, or do you prefer the more warmish signature of the Tanya. I mean, the Tanya's, because it doesn't have all that energy up top, can make the mids sound more, I don't know if the correct word is woolly, more just warmer, just more, like lazy. Perhaps that would be the better terminology. Yeah, and that basically covers the Tanya. The other one that I compared it to, and is going to be an actual surprise when I show you the graph of one and the other, is the Tripowin Lea. And there we go. And you look at the graph of the Tripowin Lea, and it's almost identical. It's actually quite interesting. They are very similar, and even listening to them, they sound very similar, although truth be told, the Moondrop, the CHU, the bass, although graphically it seems the same, it has more weight to it, more body to it than the Lea. The Lea is, and I mentioned that when I did the review, it sounds lean. It sounds like it's on a diet, basically. And when you listen to certain male voices, especially, Jeff Cascaro, The Lady's Not Amused, you listen to Gregory Porter, Hey Laura, Holding On, you definitely see a difference. Definitely see a difference. On the highs, I would say that the Lea is maybe not as splashy with certain artists. Maybe with female artists it will be as splashy and as unrefined as the CHU sometimes is, so like Malia, Raising Venus, but when you then put on the male voices, or you put some music which is just more instruments, like Bruno Mueller, for example, 80s, which has got a nice guitar to it, or Brian Simper's Twilight, the same thing, situation. Even Unconditional from Soul Persona. I would say that the CHU edges out the Lea on certain occasions. On others, then the Lea, is superior. Overall, the CHU is superior to the Lea. Where the Lea wins is in the fact that it has a detachable cable. I mean, that is a plus point. So that basically covers the Tanya, the Ola, the Lea, and it leaves us with one final one, which is, sorry, let me just get the graph here so I can show it to you, which is the CCA CRA, which, as some of you might know, is one of the IEMs which I consider to be it's a go-to in terms of such a cheap IEM that just plays so well, and well, here's the graph of it, as you can see. Tons of bass, but the funny thing is, excuse me, although you see all this energy in the bass, it never seems to be done in a bad way. I mean, look, let's keep in mind this is a $15 IEM, so I'm not saying that the bass of this is the bass of 64 or tier 3 or something like that. No, it's not that kind of quality, but the quality, the texture of the bass, the obvious V signature that it has been well done, and it never seems like this amount of bass is overpowering the rest. And the real only negative point, which is made quite obvious with certain music, I mean, especially with female voices, you notice it quite well, like Leanne Rimes, How Do I Live, you notice it very well. Even stuff like Mary Magdalene as well, you notice it quite well. Is this 5K peak that you have there of the CRA is at least for me, on certain IEMs doesn't bother me so much, but on this IEM it actually can become a little bit too much, the nice thing about the CRA as compared to the CHU is, although they seem to have basically the same kind of energy in terms of the treble, so from 4K up, they kind of match each other in terms of overall amount. It is a better quality treble on the CRA. Why? I've got no idea. It could be a driver related thing, I just have no idea, but it's a better quality treble. It's not so much in your face, it's cleaner, and if you're able to choose carefully the music that will bother you in the 5K and compare it with the CHU, you will see that the CRA is a better IEM in that aspect. Overall, how do I rate the CRA as compared to the CHU? Well, let me just come down here for a second. They are two different signatures. I mean, it's not even fair to say that one is superior to the other. Do I think that the CRA will maybe please more people? Yes. Why? Because it's got this dynamic, it's got this energy to it, which is very, very engaging. I mean, honestly, if you are willing to again do some small mods to it, like I've done, and to try and control that 5K peak, you can get some serious performance out of the CRA. But that is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about stock versus stock. Stock versus stock, I would say they're about equal. Okay, I would say they're about equal. They will focus on different crowds of people. Um, this is for the person that wants to start having a taste of more high quality tuning, more balanced tuning, more correct done tuning. While this is an IM which is very well tuned in terms of being a V signature, more traditional V signature, but it's not the ultimate if you are looking for neutrality. It's not the best if you are wanting to maybe do some more correct monitoring or something like that of the sort. If you want a fun IM that will really satisfy you, definitely the CRA will be your poison. Um, as as a final comparison of the CHU with the more upscale of its brothers, the Aria, the Blessing 2s, it's not even a fair comparison. But anyway, I mentioned that yes, and I said that again in the beginning of this review, that when you listen to the CHU for the first time, and if you're a Moondrop connoisseur, you immediately recognize the tuning, you immediately recognize the sound, you immediately say, oh wow, this sounds like an aria. And it does. For the most part, it sounds like an aria, and then obviously, depending on what you have connected up to it, you will then start noticing the differences. Connected to a phone, I think the majority of untrained ears will not really be able to tell the difference. But when you start then connecting to some sort of external power, like for example, I use the Abigail here as one of the sources. I use the TK2, I use the QDLX, I use the BTR5, and even with the simple thing like the Abigail here, you then start seeing that yes, this is good. It is really good for the price. Basically unbeatable if what you want is correctness, but the aria is a superior IEM. So for those that were maybe thinking, oh, is this an aria killer? No, it's not an aria killer. As compared to the Blessing 2, the same situation. I mean, this is not deserving of the fame that it has for no reason at all. No, it is an extremely well tuned IEM. This is a good, this is a 40-year-old whiskey here, so obviously the majority of people might not appreciate it or might not like it because they don't have the ability or the trained ear that some of us which are more hardcore will already have. But yes, you listen to it initially, and I even said it sounds like 70% of a Blessing. Well, I might have exaggerated a little bit. Maybe it sounds like 50% of a Blessing. But the truth is this. I mean, you hear this and you can definitely already imagine or have a perception of what a Blessing 2 sounds like. No doubt about it. And it's actually interesting because when you compare the curves, the graphs of the Blessing and the aria with this, there's not much difference in terms of the overall bass amount. It's very similar, but the quality of the bass, the body that the bass has on the Blessing, which is not a bass monster by the way, or the aria as compared to this is not even close. Anyway, guys, to finish this up because it's getting like a long review. Do I rec this? Definitely recommend it. It's got its flaws, it does, but they are more than compensated by the fact that it has an amazingly good tune, very well built. It's got a name behind it which has nothing to prove, so definitely recommend it. No issues. As compared to the other cheaper stuff, which I wanted to compare it here with the Tanya, you will like the cleanliness that it has. You might miss some of the impact that the Tanya has. In terms of fit, it's superior to the Tanya. Cable, it's basically the same story. So I would say yes, it makes perhaps more sense to choose this over the Tanya. As compared to the Ola, no contest. The Ola has absolutely nothing that it can do significantly better than this. Definitely not in the lower registers. As compared to the Lea, very, very similar, to be honest. I was actually quite surprised. Although you do feel the tonality and the way that it's just more natural, more correct sounding of the CHU is superior to the Lea. The timbre as well. I mean, like I mentioned just earlier, maybe sometimes the treble of the Lea is just a little bit superior, but overall I would say that this does make more sense still over the Lea, even contemplating that the Lea does have a detachable cable still. And as compared to the CRA, this would probably be the only IEM which I say they equal. You know, look, for the price of an Ola, you can get these two. That's it. Done deal. You know, and you'll probably have the best neutrally bright tuned IEM currently available, and you'll probably have the best V signature tuned IEM available in the market right now. That, I think, sums it up. You know, get $35, $40, buy the two, and that's game over for you. Alright, anyway guys, thank you. As usual, if you liked, you know, click subscribe, tell your friends about it, and let me know in the comments what other comparisons, what other reviews you would like to see, and I'll do my best as usual to satisfy those requests. Alright, have a great one. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.